The Detroit Lions 53-man roster has been released. Players who did make it, players who did not make it. We're going to go over it right now. In the comment section right now, scale the Lions roster 1 through 100. 1 meaning that it is booty cheeks. 100 mean it is Super Bowl material. Let me know in the comments below. Going to be a pinned comment. Let's go ahead and start with the quarterbacks here. Obviously, the easiest one is Jared Goff is your starter. Teddy Bridgewater is the backup quarterback. And Hendon Hooker was placed on the NFI list. We fully expected that to occur because we all knew it. I mean, it has literally been talked about endlessly before this happened. No surprise here when it comes to the quarterback position, Hendon Hooker or anything like that. That's who they got for the quarterback position. Let's go ahead and move on to a position where there is a little bit of a shock here, and that's the running backs / fullback. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jason Cabinda. That is your running backs. You are correct. Jermar Jefferson, waived. Craig Reynolds, waived. And Benny Snell, waived as well. The Detroit Lions are rolling with 2 running backs, 1 fullback. Best believe this is not going to be the same. They're not going to just roll with 2 running backs. They will pick up another running back at some point, whether it be for, in a waiver wire or in free agency or in a trade. You're not going to roll with 2 running backs, 1 fullback. That just doesn't make any sense. And shock that Craig Reynolds was released by the Detroit Lions. I thought he was for sure going to be a lock to make this roster, and I was completely off on that one. So go ahead and roast me in the comments section because that was an absolute shocker for sure. So, question right now. Which roster move surprised you the most? Name a player. You already know what mine is. Craig Reynolds. That is a surprise roster cut for me. But let me know your thoughts on the roster cut. Who surprised you? Let's continue on here with the wide receivers. We got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, Marvin Jones Jr., Antoine Green, and suspended list is Jameson Williams. Not much of a shocker here. Chase Cota was waived with an injury. So you got Antoine Green, who I thought really showed well in that final preseason game, doing that 70-yard touchdown play, and it just showed you the wheels that he had on him. It showed you what he brings, multiple dimensions. He can play in and out, and he's obviously the Lions' 7th-round draft pick. And when you have a player that can do multiple positions, and may I say, he can probably do special teams really well. We've seen that in preseason as well, so he can be used there. It makes a lot of sense to keep him on this roster. So Chase Cota, unfortunately, injured, waived. And I know a lot of other people wanted Dylan Drummond as one of the receivers. He'll probably go to the practice squad. And as soon as we get the information on the practice squad, we'll make it a video for you folks on that one. So not much of a shocker there. And we go to the tight ends. Absolutely no shock here. It is the tight ends we fully expect. Brock Wright, Sam Laporta, and James Mitchell. This one was probably the easiest positional group that you could possibly think of. Not a single player there would have been any sort of different. I mean, that's exactly what it was. It was like that since the beginning of training camp. We all had a good idea, especially when Shane Zylstra went down. It was the pretty much the end of the question mark. So let's go ahead and jump into the offensive line. Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, Frank Ragnar, Halapaludi Vati-Vaitai, Panay Sewell, Graham Glasgow, Colby Sorsdale, and Melt Nelson will be the Detroit Lions offensive lineman right now. So you'll have Graham Glasgow. He'll be playing, he can play center as well as guards. Colby Sorsdale can play, even though they're having a lot of him on the inside, he can play a tackle, but he'll probably play guard if he needs to be this year. And then you got Matt Nelson, who's going to be the swing tackle, who has not played well at all for the Detroit Lions this preseason game. And It would not be a shock to me if the Detroit Lions continue to look for another tackle or an offensive lineman. Again, just because it's the 53-man roster right now, it doesn't mean it's going to be the 53-man roster tomorrow or the next day. They're always going to flip and turn rocks for the end of the roster. That's just how they do that, and that's what all NFL teams do. The Detroit Lions are no different from that. So, I mean, I think they need help at tackle, but that's just my personal preference. I think they would be beneficial to look to see what other tackles released from other teams to potentially get an upgrade from Matt Nelson. Again, just like we said in the beginning of this video, go ahead and rate the Lions roster 1 through 100. 1 being booty cheeks, and the other one being Super Bowl 1 through 100. Let me know in the comments below. Let's go to the interior offensive line. Aleem McNeil, Isaiah Buggs, Levi Onwuzurike, Benito Jones, and Broderick Martin. It's fairly not much of a surprise here. Benito Jones did, I guess, you're looking at him and other individual, but I thought that Levi deserved to be on this roster. Isaiah Buggs, whom they signed in free agency, Aleem McNeil, we already know him. Broderick Martin, who the Detroit Lions drafted. This is a good interior defensive line for the Lions, and it's really makes it much improved when Levi Onwuzurike can play, and he has played, and he showed in training camp, he showed in preseason the ability to come back from a significant injury and able to play for the Lions, and that is so important for his development, his career, and the Detroit Lions depth, roster, and everything going forward with that, because we need to have young players on this football team. We need to have our draft picks, whom we drafted, and he drafted high in the second round, be on this football team. So he did everything he could. Shout out to Levi Onwuzurike from fighting. All the odds were against him, and he said, nope, I'm going to make it, and he sure did. Let's go to the edge position here. Aiden Hutchinson, Charles Harris, John Kaminsky, Josh Pascal, James Houston, Romeo Okwara, and Julian Okwara. Julian is on this roster. We've heard a lot of rumors that the Lions were looking to trade him. The Lions decided to keep him. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's still going to be on the roster week 1 or anything like that, but he's on the roster right now. Romeo Okwara and Julian Okwara, the Okwara brothers, all make the roster. James Houston, crazy rumors came out, and I didn't believe it at all that they potentially could shop him. Made the team, obviously, so because he's really good and young, and I did not believe any of that rumors. No one else here is a shock. Aiden Hutchinson, Charles Harris, John Kaminsky, all really good players for the Lions. The Lions got really good depth at the edge position. They will be throwing waves of folks at people, and that's really good for our Lions because we need to have players smash other players. Let's go ahead and jump to the linebacker position here. And when we look at what the Lions did here, it's exactly who we thought it would be. It was the same individuals we've been talking about here. Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Malcolm Rodriguez, Derek Barnes, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, and Anthony Pittman. You got the guys who's going to be playing significant amount of time, right? You got Anzalone, Campbell, Barnes, and Rodriguez. And then you got Jalen Reeves-Maybin, who I thought did pretty damn good in preseason, and he's special teams. And Anthony Pittman showed some flash as well. He's been on this roster for a couple years, swinging around, the practice squad roster and all that type of stuff. And, he has special teams ability, and I feel like he gotten better. He's just slowly getting better. And so when you have that, you try to keep these type of players on the roster. And that's just the way that it went there. Not much of a surprise. Let's jump to the cornerback positions. Cam Sutton, Jerry Jacobs, Brian Branch, Will Harris, Stephen Gilmore, Khalil Dorsey, and Emmanuel Mosey. Big name I'm happy to see on here. Stephen Gilmore has made the roster. God, I wanted him to make this roster, and he did. Shout out to him. really doing well in preseason. If they would have released him, I don't think he would have cleared waivers. That's how good he played. And now he is part of the Detroit Lions 53. Well deserved for him. Super excited. When you look at and you say Khalil Dorsey, he's a special teamer. He could play obviously defense, but he's fast as well. And you got Will Harris. But another name on there is Emmanuel Mosley, which was activated. So odds are he doesn't play week 1, but it's great news for him that he is able to be on the 53-man roster, doing everything he can to physically get ready. We signed this guy in free agency. We want him to get it done. But Will Harris survives another year. It is what it is, folks. It is what it is, but I know a lot of other people wanted to see maybe Sterling Thomas in there. You didn't get your wish. He will probably go to the practice squad. Let's jump to the safety position here. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Kirby Joseph, Tracy Walker, and Afutu Melifonwu made this roster for the Detroit Lions. So a lot of people say he may not do it due to the injury. He made it initially. Right now doesn't mean that it's going to be here long term. I don't know about that, but he's here right now. So that's what we got, the safeties. Not a lot of a shocker in this one. That's the safety position. Let's jump to special teams. Jack Fox, Scott Daly, and Riley Patterson right now is the kicker. And the reason I'm saying right now is we heard a lot of rumors that the Lions were looking to go ahead and trade for a kicker. Maybe they want to upgrade that position. Maybe they fell out on trades. I don't know. But right now, that is your kicker for the Detroit Lions. And that is the Lions 53-man roster. That's what we got going on for today, is the Lions made some moves and kept some players and cut some players. One, to me, the biggest cut, Craig Reynolds, the shocker to me. Interesting. So let me know your thoughts about the Lions 53 in the comments below. With that said, folks, adios.